most common kinds of snakes we see around this time of year?
This time of year in this area, a couple of brown snakes, red bellies, probably the main venomous snakes you'll find, as well as a lot of small crown snakes and the smaller species of venomous snakes we find around that are not deadly, but still weren't causing a problem to people's pets and things. But a lot of pythons and green tree snakes. Pythons generally do come into homes and they're not too shy, but generally they're harmless, and if you call a snake catcher, they'll come and remove it for you safely, and really you're in very little danger. If you are out and about, walking around through the bush, you're probably going to mitigate risk by staying on the tracks, not heading through the bush. You can wear long pants, you can wear appropriate footwear. That's probably the easiest and quickest thing you can do if you are worried about snake bite as you're out walking around. As far as snakes in the home, and obviously they start coming out during the warmer months, if you keep your yard clean, keep your grass cut, stack all old timber and things like that up against tidy, and don't create habitat for snakes, then they're less likely to come into your yard and around your home. They rely on the heat to keep their bodies warm, to move around, so when we come into summer, into spring, that's when they start wanting to breed. After winter, when they've settled down and they've cooled down and gone to like a brumation, they'll go off their food. When the warmer months kick in, they'll start moving around looking for females, looking for males to breed with, and obviously they'll start feeding again. So they'll be out hunting and looking for animals they can feed on. So being a reptile, it's very common for the warm months to start getting them to move around and get them active.
We hear a lot about eastern browns. If you're out and about and you come across a snake that you think could be an eastern brown, what's the appropriate behaviour from you?
The easiest thing you can do really is just step away from it. Most people notice them last minute, and they're an animal that will startle quite easily, so they might whip around. They're very reactive animals, they're not incredibly intelligent, but if you are to then go and pester it, it's going to defend itself. So the best thing you can really do is just step back, give it some space and just watch it, and 9 times out of 10 it's just going to cruise in the opposite direction and try and get away from you. You're quite a large animal to a snake. You're obviously not food, you're probably more of a danger, so they're not going to really want to come and bother you on purpose. They're just going to want to go about doing what they're doing.
Are there any indicators that you might have a snake around the yard?
They do shed their skin regularly, so a shed skin is a very clear sign you might have a snake in your yard, as well as potential feces around the place. It looks a bit odd, but other than that, not really. Most people just report them as they see them, rather than as a preventative measure. They're a very secretive, elusive animal. They don't make a lot of sound, so they do live quite secret lives and are hard to spot generally. But skin would be your first telltale sign that there are snakes around your yard. And if you do have a lot of rodents and things around too, it's likely that you may be attracting snakes into your yard. So obviously any prey species that you're finding around the place is going to encourage them in. Another thing to do if you are out bushwalking a lot and it is something that you are worried about, you can be prepared taking a bandage with you, and you would just apply that pressure bandage as if you would apply it to a sprained ankle or wrist, and call 000 straight away. You definitely can take note of what snake and stuff like that. However, it's probably not best to concern yourself looking at the snake and wasting time, because what they can do is a venom detection at the hospital. So try not to wash or rub away at the bite site, because there will be a residue venom still there. They can test that and they will then be able to see which snake has bitten you.
If you are out walking in the bush and unfortunately you do get bitten by a snake, one of the most important things to do is stay really still and calm. The venom travels through the lymphatic system, so any unnecessary movement causes the venom to travel quicker through your system. So ideally you would lie down, stay as still as you can, and then use a pressure bandage. So Tatiana here has been bitten on the hand, so what we're going to do is start the bandage going around, starting at the end of the limb, using about as much pressure as you would for a sprained wrist or ankle, still keeping that limb as still as you possibly can. As you're going, you just extend your way all the way up to the end of the limb as far as you can cover with the bandage, keeping that pressure nice and tight. And then just tie off or tuck in the end of the bandage, keep that limb down, keep it nice and still. If you had another bandage, you could add in a splint and then go over it a second time. Another useful tip for the paramedics who will be turning up hopefully would be to get a pen or something and mark approximately where the bite site is. So when they get to hospital, they don't need to take that bandage off. They can just put a little cut in the bandage to get to the bite site to do that venom detection kit that we talked about earlier. They'll take a swab of the bite site and then they have their little chemical detection kit, and that will give them an indication on one of the 5 main venom types that will determine what snake has potentially bitten you, but also, more importantly, it determines which antivenom they'll use if it's needed. So it's really important when you're bitten that you don't clean that bite site, don't scrub off any of the venom, just cover it as is. Any residual venom on the outside of the bite site is not going to make any difference. So lie down, stay still, get that compression bandage on. If you don't have a bandage, use a piece of clothing or a belt, anything you have, just to keep compression on the bite site, and obviously then call 000. Really important, if you can, try and get help to come to you so you can stay nice and still, and then everything should be sweet.
Self-included would scream, freak out, jump.
Yeah.
Does that make it worse?
No, they're deaf, so screaming actually isn't going to do anything for the snake. It might make you feel a little bit better. It's fine if you jump, they're not going to really react to it much, as long as you just take the time to just step away and give it some space. They're going to be absolutely fine. Sometimes again people accidentally step on them. Things like death adders, they don't move around too much. They're probably one of the most common snakes that people come into contact with because they rely on camouflage. So they're not going to feel your footsteps and try and move out of your way. They're going to hunker down and try and use their camouflage. And obviously if it works very well, you won't see them and accidentally step on them. But yeah, jumping around and stuff like that isn't going to make it worse, but it's not going to make it any better either.
And should we just call a snake catcher? Like, what do we do if we do see one and we want it out of our backyard?
Yeah, the best thing you can do is call a licensed snake catcher. There's a couple that operate on the Sunshine Coast, and they have a lot of trained professionals that work for them that cover a huge area of the East Coast, so there'll be somebody at your door within 20 minutes, half an hour. Best thing you can do is try and keep an eye on it from a distance. Definitely do not try and tamper with the snake, because all you're doing then is upsetting it and potentially making the person's job more dangerous when they turn up, because now they have to deal with an angry, aggressive snake rather than just something that's just basking in the sun underneath a pile of bricks or something like that. So call a catcher and just try and keep an eye on it.
Is it common for people to see a snake, think it's not venomous when it actually is, or vice versa?
Yeah, I mean there's lots of different species of snakes, and not everyone is really into them like we are, so IDing them can be an issue. It's hard to give any kind of blanket rule of how to ID a venomous snake from a non-venomous snake. I would say if you are unsure, treat it as if it's the most venomous snake in the world, because if it bites you at that moment it is. So just have some respect. If you do want to learn about snakes, that'd be great. Buy a book and you can go out and wildlife watch. You might be lucky to find some, but definitely give them their space and yeah, definitely respect them, because they can be very dangerous.
It's a bit of a common myth that if a snake bites you, you should suck the poison out.
Yeah.
What can happen if you do that?
You could potentially not really do it. Really, you're just wasting time at that point. If someone else sucks the venom out for you, they can potentially envenomate themselves. If you have an ulcer or something in your mouth and you do get some of that venom in there, that's going to enter your bloodstream. So then you've just envenomated yourself by trying to apply that sort of first aid, which has been proven many, many times to be very ineffective. The most effective way is by applying that bandage and staying calm. If you're with somebody else, you can sit down, lie down, try and get your heart rate down and allow them to make the call and to help you out as much as possible.